Good afternoon, everybody. It's Steve Ishwood here, Chief Exec of the ISE. Welcome all to our webinar. This is another in our ongoing series of webinars where we try to bring you, all the latest thought leadership that affects our industry. We've got nearly 100 people online so far, so that's a great attendance today. Today's subject is diversity recruiting, what's on candidates' mind, and I'm really pleased to be able to introduce David Ravel of Pathmotion, who's long been a keen supportive and active member of the ISE. Diversity really is very high up on the agenda of all our members. I was only presenting on it yesterday. We've seen in terms of because we measure amongst employers their diversity priorities and what's a high priority, medium priority, and all strands of diversity, whether it's genders, disabilities, sexual orientation, social mobility. Everything has ramped up the priority stage, and employers are investing more and more time and resources than ever. So this is a really good topic to be talking about. The format for our webinars, if you haven't been on before, David's probably got sort of roughly 25-30 minutes to talk through. The way that people pose questions is via the GoToWebinar software that we use. So I'll keep an eye on those. David will as well. If we see any that come along as we're going through, I'll try and moderate those and pass those through to David. But if not, we will definitely have time at the end of it to answer any questions you've got. We also record this webinar, which we will pass on to the guys at Pathmotion, because they will want to put it out to their network, and also we'll also put it on our website for IC members for you to revisit if you want to, but also please share it amongst your team. Right, that's enough from me. David's the person you really want to hear to, so I'll now hand over to David. David, over to you.
Thank you, Stephen. Pleasure kind of meeting you all. And thank you for joining us today. So I guess you don't want to hear from me, but you want to hear from the candidates. And this is really what we're going to talk about. We're going to try to understand and unravel exactly what diverse candidates have on their mind, and basically what they expect from you to, hopefully allow you to do a better job at attracting them. So as Stephen has said, it's a topic that, is widespread today. You don't go to one conference where we don't speak about diversity recruitment, but what's true as well, it's a topic which has more questions than answers. So by no means are we going to give you kind of all the answers today, but what we did do is we did a huge survey and really tried to understand from the candidate perspective what they want to know. Why from a candidate perspective? Because actually we came across a very revealing stat in a BCG report, which basically said that companies, 95% of companies say that they have diversity programs in place, and what we see is that candidates actually don't exactly feel that way or perceive it that way. So if you look at it, only 25% of employees and candidates from diverse groups say that they benefited in one way, shape, or form from the diversity programs that close to 100% of companies are claiming that they are putting in place. So you can really see that there's a huge gap in the perception that companies have about what they're doing and what candidates feel that is actually happening on the ground. So we really try to shift the perspective to the candidates. But before I kind of talk about that, just in case anyone needs to be convinced about diversity recruitment, I'm sure you all are, otherwise you wouldn't have joined it, but maybe if you want to have some additional arguments to kind of promote it internally, there's a few of them. Obviously, you all know about kind of the war for talent, and there's just, more demand for talent than supply available. That's a fact. There's nothing you can do about it. And actually, McKinsey report is showing that there's going to be 20 million people missing in Europe and the US in the next few years in terms of, talent pool. And actually, it's quite interesting because, at Pathmotion, we're facing that as well. So a third of our team is in R&D and product development, and we had to also open up to actually self-taught software engineers. So as an example, we have a kind of a former locksmith and a former salesman who who are kind of self-taught software engineers, and funnily enough, they are doing as well, if not sometimes better than some of the people who actually studied, computer engineering. So obviously this requires a very rigorous process, but the point is that you need really to open your mind to kind of look for talent beyond what you are used to. And you might have seen other research that's showing that companies who have a high proportion of females and ethnic minorities in their executive position actually perform better by 15%. And what one of our clients are telling us, Citi, for instance, they tell us that they need to be able to represent the people that they serve. At the end of the day, whatever your business is in, your customers are going to expect that within your company you represent their kind of diversity in some way. And finally, a final stat that's quite interesting that comes also from the same McKinsey report that shows that it boosts satisfaction. So as soon as you've got minority workers over 15%, it boosts the overall satisfaction of your employees within your company. So, one of the things we did as well is we asked 200 HR leaders whether they thought diversity could be improved at their company. And I'm guessing that, you might be in line with them. Actually, 85% of talent attraction and employer branding leaders said that, they believed that it could be improved. And, the good news is that there's a lot of diverse candidates out there. So it's a question is kind of how you reach out to them and how you communicate to them. So, there's a lot of talk about, okay, where do you lose diversity candidates in the recruitment funnel? So I think there's quite a bit of a consensus today that, diverse candidates are lost at the beginning of the recruitment funnel. We went just a step further and we interviewed, those 200 TA leaders and asked, okay, where exactly in the recruitment funnel do you believe that you lose those people that you want to attract from diverse backgrounds? And actually, over 50% said that it's after those people visit the website. Yeah, so the issue is not so much in people from diverse backgrounds coming and searching and looking at you, or even kind of being convinced once they receive an offer, because probably they went through a few stages where they actually could see that you're serious about diversity, but it's more at the phase where they have a touch point with you, they go on your website, they visit your website, and somehow they're like, okay, this is not for me. This is not an organization where I will be fulfilled. So it might be, something you said, or it might be something actually you probably didn't say, which actually puts those candidates off. So to analyze, what candidates really want from you, we actually looked at 25,000 discussions on our discussion platform. So I didn't have a chance to really introduce PatMotion today. Obviously, it's not about PatMotion, but just for those that don't know what we do, I mean, we have a discussion platform where essentially your employees are able to share their stories and respond to candidates' questions. So it's essentially a brand discussion platform. Candidates come, they meet your people, they ask them questions, and that gives us obviously a lot of data that we can analyze and understand from. On top of that, we actually surveyed 1,000 candidates to really understand, what exactly they expect from you. So what we found is quite interesting, because we found that candidates ask very, very granular questions, which broadly fit into three categories depending on which diverse group they are part of. So one category is about eligibility. So am I eligible to be part of your organization? So typical question is how difficult is it to get without any accounting experience? Again, diversity is very broad. So it could be simply someone who didn't study what they think they should have studied to be part of you. Or questions like what is the maximum age, or we have questions like, okay, my husband has previously been in prison. Could that stop him from being, part of your organization? So those are the type of eligibility questions that need somehow to be addressed. The second category is, okay, do I fit? Okay, I got it. I'm supposedly eligible, but actually, can I apply my skill, and where exactly can I apply it? Where can I be suited? So, for instance, what business area could I go into following a career in military intelligence? Fine, you are saying that you recruit military people because, they're very organized, they're very disciplined and whatnot, but actually, be more specific and tell me, concretely speaking, where will I fit, right? And then there's the third aspect, which is like the work environment. So great, you told me that I'm eligible. You told me that I could fit, but will I enjoy it? Will it suit me? Do CT have any firm-wide network for women? Is an example of the questions we see. We get other questions like, are there many seniors, openly LGBT people at your organization? How does your organization help with disabilities? So people want to kind of get the inside of the concrete nitty-gritty of what it would mean for them. So obviously that's not going to work, right? I mean, we all know that stock photos, stock videos, won't be enough, and you need to actually go a step further. So the next thing that we looked at is really, where you should communicate. So what are the touch points that candidates are using once researching about your organization? And yes, the website is the number one still, or again, but the issue is that it often doesn't contain the information you want to share with them. The good news, obviously, is that you've got control on your website, hopefully, and this is where you're going to have the biggest impact. So this is where you need to be extremely careful in what you share. That obviously it's not going to be sufficient to put people from diverse background or smiling with nice white teeth, and being cool and hipster. People don't buy that anymore. I mean, candidates don't buy that anymore. So you need to be more specific and more detailed, and we're going to cover that in a second. But obviously there's other touch points that candidates go to. Review sites, are still very popular, which obviously makes sense. We probably all go to TripAdvisor when we want to check, a restaurant or a hotel to make sure that it's not, a catastrophe. We will probably not base all of our judgment on what is said, but we want to make sure that it is sufficiently good. So you want to make sure as well that, on the review side, your company doesn't look too bad. And obviously social media, nothing new about that. But, again, it's been repeated many times. The point is not to replicate what you're putting on your website. It's really about showing what's behind the curtain, because this is what candidates are looking at. And obviously news and current events you've got less kind of impact on, but, it happens to be like an important factor in candidates' mind. And, physical events like campus fairs and recruitment fairs are still kind of in the mix, but decreasing. That's the trend that we are seeing. So, speaking of campus events, I just wanted to show you a quick video of one of the candidates we interviewed, which is quite interesting and quite telling on, how he kind of found what you guys are doing. Can you see the video, hopefully? Okay, I'm being told that you cannot hear the sound. Let me try one thing, and if that doesn't work, I'll just move on.
They have like a period where they go, okay, these are like, these are consultants, these are 5 or 6 consultants, you're going to quiz them on questions. And it's just like, every single one of them was like, middle class, 30, 4, 6'3", between 6'3" and 6'5", white, blonde hair, male. I was like, okay.
So hopefully, you got that. But Samuel, who ended up joining Google, actually obviously didn't join that consulting firm, as you can imagine. So what is it that you can do to actually kind of fix the problem? So clearly, you will not have all diversity policies and programs in place by tomorrow. I guess it's not even part of your remit, to be honest. But there's some spots where you can have an immediate impact on improving the programs in your company. And first of all, is creating the content that actually candidates want to see. We saw that they want to get like very specific answers to questions. And what's very interesting is that today there's no reason why you couldn't do that. And actually, there's a very interesting BCG report, which I strongly advise you to look at, which interviewed 16,500 candidates of diverse groups, kind of splitting them very narrowly into subgroups and telling you what each of those groups actually want to know about. What are the topics that really they care about? So if you want, we're more than happy to share you that report after the webinar. If you shoot us an email, we can send it over. Feel free to reach us, by the way, at meeting at PatMotion. We can share that, but it's a super interesting report. I just pulled up like one example of what female candidates wanted to know about, which all makes sense, right? Flexible work programs, parent leave, progression, which everyone wants to know about, healthcare, appropriate healthcare, and childcare. But they really go into details about explaining, in subcategories what you should tell, those candidates specifically on each of those topics. And obviously, again, this is clearly information you can access on your website if you have control. So the other kind of aspect that candidates have told us is that stories are super important for them. Like actually, it was the most important kind of piece of information they wanted to know about, which obviously makes a lot of sense. So they wanted to hear stories from real people in the job. So and we see that reflected a lot in the questions that are being asked on our platforms as well. How did you find the transition into working in banking as a Muslim, for instance? We get on the police. People wanting to know from a female police officer how she manages the work-life balance. I'll try to share another video with you that shares some of the best practices that people have told us.
And a great practice that I've seen on a program site to bring in diverse applicants is that they have a whole section dedicated to their culture and what they're about and people that work for them, and also if they include like little reviews and what people think about the place of working, it shows that people actually enjoy their time there. So if they enjoy their time there, I feel like I would also enjoy my time there, so I'd be more likely to apply if they have like real life stories on their website.
If you are that specific individual has been a person who's like led this kind of diversity and inclusion like initiative, in a specific area, they're the ones talking about it rather than if the company going like this is what we've done. I think it's more authentic when it's coming from that specific individual because you can actually see it actually come to.
Looking at a company website would tell you what the company itself wants to portray, but that might not be the reality. So I think sort of real life stories and reviews from people that work there would be a good indicator of the reality of what it's like inside the company.
Okay, so stories is nothing new, right? I mean, it's been used for decades in many industries, and the reason why it's so powerful is because at the end of the day, you're kind of influenced by people who are living what you are looking to do. And we know now from politics as well, even that stories beat facts. So, you're more likely to influence someone by telling them a good story than by showing them a good fact. The only issue that you have, as talent acquisition professional, as talent attraction employer branding professionals today is that you're dealing with an audience that is very, very skeptical, right? I mean, if you look at the millennials, the breed of candidates, they look at the world with a very suspicious eye because early in their life, they've been burnt with fake news, fake authenticity. Take Tinder. This is usually what they would see on the picture on their on the app, and then when they go to the date, this is the type of things that they would see. And I don't know for those of you that know the Fire Festival, but I think it's a quite revealing kind of phenomenon that this generation is living through. So for those that haven't heard about the Fire Festival, I strongly recommend you to look at the report on Netflix. If you search for Fire Festival Netflix, it's really fascinating because it's very kind of symptomatic of how candidates see the world today. So this was like the biggest music festival that essentially never happened. It was supposed to be like an amazing festival on an island with beautiful people in a very luxurious environment, and actually when people got there, this is what they got. Yeah, so instead of the luxury villas, they got like they received pre-packaged sandwiches, and they were in tents, and it was raining, so all of the mattresses were wet. So it was a complete fiasco. And actually, the founder of this festival ended up sentenced to 6 years in prison and had a $26 million fine. So there's even an expression actually in the tech industry that says fake it till you make it. And this is how this generation has grown up. So obviously when you put those type of pictures, you can understand why it just won't work for them. And guess what? Like 60% of candidates believe the information shared by employers is just not credible. So you need to be very, very careful in the type of messages that you are going to share with those candidates. Otherwise, they're going to go to places like Glassdoor. I mean, you've got more than 50 review sites today. But, and this is where they will actually, find out about what it's really like to work for you. So back to storytelling. I mean, I'm not going to go too much into storytelling, but just a brief word that it's something that, evidence has shown that works really well. Yeah. I mean, stories are better remembered, they trigger emotions, and this is also why brands like Coke, Nike, Virgin invest so much into storytelling on the consumer side. So it's quite effective. So it's like when you see a hockey movie, the next day you want to go and exercise. If you watch Wimbledon and you watch Federer, suddenly you want to play tennis. So it's something that is quite effective. And as I said, it's established in other sectors. So obviously we spoke about politics, but even in charity, it's something that works really well. And actually the Wharton Business School did a fascinating study comparing two advertisements. So the one ad was giving facts. Okay, if you contribute to this cause, we can actually we could cut stunting by 33%. The second ad was just showing one child called Hokia who lives in Mali and which you could help not be hungry anymore. And guess what? The donation to the second ad was 66% higher than the first one. So while it's very established in many sectors, the big question was, okay, but can we apply it to talent attraction, right? And actually we did a study with one of our clients, Citigroup, where we actually compared their career website to the stories of their employees. Yeah, so the employees were available to answer questions on our platform, and we actually had 70 students who were interested in working in finance on the West Coast in the US, because we partnered with a firm called Immersion Neuroscience. So basically, it's a firm that's owned by a guy called Paul Zak. He's kind of a thought leader and a guru, if you will, in storytelling. He's a neuroscientist. So basically what he does, he measures the oxytocin release in the brain, he measures the heart pulse and whatnot of candidates, comparing, a website to the stories of people. And the first result that was, quite shocking actually to Citi, because they've been pouring a lot of money at their website, is that, employee stories obviously are immersive, but actually what was quite shocking is that the career side is not immersive. So if you take a standard career site, it just doesn't create immersion. And actually, employee stories drive 20% higher and more constant immersion. So you can see the trend, over 1 hour. You can see that actually both the career site and the employee stories start quite high, but the issue is with the career site, it goes down over time. Yeah, so there's a high expectations, and then people fall off. Where when you keep on being engaged by real people, your engagement and immersion stays high. And finally, the third kind of takeaway is that employee stories cause twice less frustrations. So the test results were quite overwhelming. So you can spend a lot of time and money improving the look and feel and efficiency of your website, but be very careful in terms of the type of information you share, because otherwise it just won't persuade the candidates. So then the question is, okay, great. Okay, I know I need to do that. It makes sense. But the question is, okay, how do I create those great stories? So there's a few kind of takeaways, we get from analyzing those 25 discussions in terms of what are the discussions that work the best and engage the most. So first of all, to tell a good story, you need a narrative. Yeah, you need a beginning, a middle, and an end. Sounds quite obvious, but it's not always applied. You need to speak about challenges, and that's very critical and sometimes counterintuitive. Yeah, but it's very important for candidates to feel that you're not just selling, and that you speak about the difficulties, about obviously what makes you unique, and about the aspects that are maybe a bit less positive and a bit more negative. And this will be good for you as well, because at the end of the day, when you think about your employer brand, it's not just about attracting the right people. It's also about having people deselect themselves and actually repelling some of the people to apply, because you don't probably need more applicants. You need more qualified applicants. And being open about the challenges will definitely help you in doing that, and will make you sound much more credible. So very important to be very detailed, very specific, and not kind of give generalities. If you can, candidates really appreciate when you give them tips. Even if it's not the best tip, it shows that you care about that you're thinking from their perspective, and that you want to help. And obviously, it needs to be a very personal story. So it's more powerful to answer a question or to give a statement by saying, okay, this is how I felt, this is how I lived it, this is how I kind of felt about going through this experience, rather than again giving generalities. So I just wanted to give you one example of a discussion that is, on the NHS platform, which is one of our clients. So it was a question, around, it was like a woman with a single mom with a 2-year-old kid, and asking, okay, can I join you guys? I mean, can I join the Leadership Academy? So the NHS has kind of a Leadership Academy. It's a general management scheme, so it's not for the nurses, obviously, and the doctors. And obviously they compete, with the likes of the Big Four. And basically you had the mom saying, okay, I'm a nurse today, I have a kid at home, can I join your scheme? And you had different mothers actually responding, one of which had 2 kids, age 2 and 4, and saying, actually it's not easy, right? Don't think it's going to be a walk in the park, because actually you better not apply, you better not join, and don't waste your time. But I understand what you do now, you're a nurse, so this is a very difficult job as well. And actually, this is how I balance it. So she really went into her personal story and to kind of sharing, how she balanced it. And then she gave some tips and saying, okay, this is how I would go about it. This is what you should be doing, etc. And this is a very good example of how you can convince someone to join you. So I just kind of wanted to show you one more example, which I just pulled off from Citigroup, which I really like. So it's a question, on gender split, right? I mean, Citi is known for, white males, bankers, arrogant, and whatnot. At least this is the perception that people have, and so they're on a big journey to try to transform that. And so you had a question about, okay, what's the gender split? So again, you've got different people answering. Happens to be it's female employees. Some saying, okay, we are 4 women as part of a team of 20, right? So it's not great, it's like 20%. You've got another one, Lineker, saying, I'm an analyst in the Amsterdam office, consisting of 5 men and myself. So she's being quite open that actually it's not great today, But, you know, we're on a journey, so this will change in 3 months since we hire more people, but I would say that usually the split is 30-70. So again, she's being honest about that. It's not 50-50, it's not perfect. And she's saying, okay, this is what City is putting in place to try to improve that. And I actually myself set up Women's Network Benelux Australia recently. So again, candidates don't expect it to be perfect. Yeah, and this is one of the myths that needs to be broken. Is, you know, they don't actually they will actually be more scared if you kind of say that, you know, it's perfect in your place. But if you can show that you're working on it, that you're doing stuff, and that you can prove it with, you know, very concrete stuff like Lineke is doing here, you know, you will actually convince them. So the other thing to bear in mind is that, you know, candidates are going to have questions along their journey, and so somehow you need to be ready to address that. And the questions are going to be very different from one person to another, and are also going to kind of evolve and are not always linear and clear. You know, you can see here Tom, for instance, at the end of the process suddenly asked a question about, okay, how much can I expect to travel? Maybe, you know, whatever, he saw another firm that promised him a lot of travel, and suddenly he's got that question on his mind. So you need to be able to provide that information really across the recruitment process. And one of the kind of recurring concern we hear from recruiters or talent acquisition professionals about their limited resource is their limited resources and their limited budget, okay? And this is normal, because, but the truth is there's no need to reinvent the wheel, as it's entirely possible to maximize the impact of current diversity program. So if you already, for instance, and I know a lot of you guys are doing that, send employees to campus events, let's say, you know, a strong suggestion would be to create an advocacy group comprised of those employees close to your values and culture, and actually their passion can be a great boost in recruiting more diverse candidates. But what's really important is to say how you make those programs work at scale. Obviously, you cannot send all of those people to all of the events in the world, but online employee advocacy tools, and there's lots of them available, can actually significantly increase the reach and engagement that you give to your initiative. And all that in real time and at all times. So this is kind of, you know, it for the moment. So I would say in terms of takeaways, right? What we see is that diverse candidates still lack information. They lack crucial information. So they really need those insights from you. You know, career site is a good place to start, because this is usually something you have control on and where candidates go a lot. Diverse employee stories do work and they are very impactful. And finally, you know, if you can do employee advocacy programs at scale, this will be greatly efficient. So feel free to reach out if you've got, you know, any questions. It's been good talking to you. So I'll see. I don't know if there's any questions that have been asked on the app.
Thanks, David. That was really good. Questions actually that I've just put a note out saying if anybody has got any questions, please pop them onto the app. That would be great. A few people couldn't hear the video because the sound qualities weren't very good on either of them. Is there anything in particular you want to re-emphasize from those videos, David?
No, it's more anecdotal. There were two videos. One was from a guy that you saw that ended up joining Google, and he was talking about one of the consulting firms coming to his university, and you could see it was like 5 male guys, same size, same dress. And he was like, what the fuck, excuse my French, this is ridiculous. I mean, you're just losing half of the audience who is not like that, basically. And he was just making fun of that company doing it. And, you know, it's weird that, you know, a company which was claiming to be diverse brought those 5 male guys, you know, at the event. And then you had the other video speaking more about, you know, why people, you know, felt that stories you know, were more reliable. Getting the insight from the real people were more reliable.
And is it also important to be genuine, David? I remember I go back to my time when I was at EY and we produced a brochure once, and we thought it looked great. It was showing people, outside work, doing outdoor stuff in the hoodie and things. And actually, quite a bit of the feedback we got back was from students saying, well, actually, we know you're a corporate firm, we know you're commercial, we're kind of applying to you because we both expect to sort of wear suits and want to wear suits. So we took back from that there's a danger of being inauthentic in some of our efforts to sell stories. So would you agree that authenticity is a really key thing?
I think it's absolutely crucial. I think that if you are not authentic, what's going to happen is you're going to attract the wrong people, and you're going to pay it afterwards, and it's going to cost the company much more money, and it's going to be a waste of time for everyone. And this is what I was saying about the repelling the wrong people. You want to repel people. Actually, if you employ a brand and if you look at PH Creative, they are doing some great work around that, around repelling people, because if you're not repelling people in some way or shape or form, you're probably not doing a good job. So you need to be quite open and harsh about what makes you different and unique. And it's quite interesting. We had like a sales guy in the process at PassMotion, like literally last week, and he was a guy who worked for big firms that have a really nice brand name, and I kept on telling him, listen, you're going to go in as PassMotion, not everyone will know you. It's not going to be as easy to sell. It's going to be tougher. You're going to have to do X, Y, Z. And he eventually dropped off of the process. He was a good guy, but actually I feel better about him dropping off now than him joining and then, either not being capable of taking on his shoulders to sell our solution, or actually, realizing afterwards that it's much more difficult to do the job than working for an IBM or an Oracle, which, doesn't matter the name of the company, but obviously if you go with a stamp like that, it's much easier. So it's going to serve you eventually. And not only will it serve you by having wrong people, not apply, it will push those people that exactly want, for instance, that you want to have the corporate culture, want to wear a suit, want to, meet big clients, want to have a certain framework that they can learn from to join. So you're really doing yourself a favor by being authentic and open.
And does what you find with your clients, I mentioned at the start, our data shows that employers are focusing more and more on diversity, and anecdotally, when we ask employers why that is, some of it is driven by, the need to do corporate good, to be inclusive, the more moral argument, but also we're hearing very much that this is a real business need, both for greater diversity of thinking, reflecting clients, but also just a shortage of talent. Focusing on the UK, we're in a situation of full employment. The number of 18-year-olds is still declining. There's a demographic trough we're working through. So I think there's a real, if we need to tackle this agenda just to find more and better talent, actually. But are you finding that on the ground with your clients as well?
I think this is the real reason. The other one is more marketing, right? Probably it's true to some extent, but at the end of the day, the reason, it's a business case. If you don't do diversity recruitment, you're hurting your company. There's just not enough talent available. It's a fact, and it's going to worsen over time. And this is a stat I was showing: 25% of newborns in the UK, and that was from 2010, come from parents who are not from the UK. So it's a clear need. And actually, if you look at companies in the top quartile for gender diversity, they're 50% more likely to have financial returns above the national industry median. So there's a clear business case for doing it. Plus the fact that it kind of increases satisfaction when you reach that certain level. So there's a lot of arguments for you to go that route, just to make sure that you get the talent you need and overall improve performance of the company and satisfaction of your existing employees.
Yes, I'd echo that. We're launching our social mobility toolkit next week, which will go live sort of middle of next week. So look out for that. But in researching that, we looked at all the McKinsey reports, all the other data out there, and they just show that, organizations that genuinely achieve diversity, on a purely financial basis, outperform, their competitors by a significant margin. So you can see that case very much coming through. I think we're done for time now. I can see people are sort of starting to click off. So I think we're sort of people don't get dragged away back to the work or back to lunch. David, that was really good. Thank you very much. That was very insightful. I've put a couple of tweets out on it, and I'm sure others have as well. If anybody wants to get in touch with David, please do. I noticed there was a contact point on the slides. If you David's website's got all their contact details on, or if you want to come through us, you're more than welcome to. Thank you very much for joining the webinar today. Thank you very much for David. It feels like we can't give you a round of applause as we will do at an event, but take a virtual applause sort of led by me. That'd be great. And as I said, this has been recorded and we will be able to get it out there so you can re-look at it or send it to your colleagues. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you, guys. Have a great end of the week. Bye.